All righty, everyone. What is going on? Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Trading Trends. It is June 18th, 2025, Fed Day, coming at you today with a single stocks edition. Got some crazy movers on the day and on the week. Let us take a look-see. All right. Let us share the doc first, and we'll go into the single intraday action on the S&P here. So first, really, what we're going to be looking at is Coinbase, a massive rally. There was a stable coin law passed, a huge move in Coinbase. We'll take a look at the chart. Also, Qxo and Marvell, all big rallies for these guys. And Visa, the payment guys, really fell hard. I'm talking about Visa, PayPal, MasterCard. Those guys were all down about 5% or more, depending. So let's get into it. Of course, today was the Fed day. Pretty anticlimactic. They not cut. Still two price cuts scheduled essentially for the rest of the year. We'll see what happens. Probably September and December, 25 bips each, but nothing today. And just kept on saying uncertainty. This was the intraday chart. Before we get into that, some big movers on the stock side. Tesla up almost 2%. Coinbase, as we said, and we'll take a look at it, up 16%. Stock looking good. A big move on that. Palantir still right around that 140 level, up 1%. Amazon shed about 1% today. Visa, as I said, we'll take a look at that chart, down 5. Marvell going the other way, up 7. Big. We mentioned this one yet? Yeah, Google down 1.5. And they bid up bonds small today during the Fed. So let's get into the intraday action. It was actually interesting. We had a nice run up until about 10:30 in the morning. Pretty impressive rise. We got to 6:01 in SPY. And then really we started having a hard time with VWAP around the 11:30, 12 o'clock time frame. And of course, Fed decisions at 2 o'clock. So at this bar, not a ton happened. We saw that they left it unchanged and changed a few words in the statement. And then here is where Powell starts talking in the presser, and there was some volatility. The range on SPY was from 601 to 597 or so. So inside of 1%, we actually slipped a little bit further after he got done speaking, all the way to about 596, and a nice, decent-ish kind of a rally, but it was not quite enough to get to VWAP, which was all around here, and call it 599 with a 598 close. So that is where we are on the day. As I zoom out, as I said, here's a 1-year time frame. We just had a nice march up. It's looking more and more to me like that was a short-term top on the 11th at 605, pretty much what we called for. And now we are seeing that consolidation. I really do think we'll be about that 590 level in about 10 days or so. It makes a lot of sense, that 590 to 593 level to be specific. And then we'll get those all-time highs, I believe, in right around mid-July, around that 620 in SPY. So all things looking pretty decent here. If you got a ticker or something, put it in the chat, and I will take a look. For now, let's get into some of these crazy stock movers. Let's see if we get some ideas out of this stuff. All right. So let's take a look at a 1-year chart of Coinbase on this guy. Again, a massive rally today, up 16%. You take a look at that massive candle. The stock has now gotten back to where it was at the February earnings report, is where we are today. So we're at 4-month highs in Coinbase, almost approaching overbought behavior, but not quite, still registering at 68. But a nice, now slightly curling upward 200 moving average right back there is your support, 232. It was at 237 just 5 days ago. Coinbase, yeah, so I do like it. Like I said, I was going to be bullish some specific parts of the equity or the crypto complex in the next 2 weeks as it zigs and zags with the market. But my full valuation for this was right around like 285, to be very frank. I thought right around 250 was a great entry. And right here where my cursor is how many chances you had that. You had pretty much a chance to get in this sucker, 250, ever since the earnings report in May. And just now, we'll see if the train left the station. I think it zigs and zags and tries to potentially go around, maybe back towards this 265-ish handle. But I wouldn't chase it right up here. But a great looking candle here. There is resistance too at 310. Should this go a little bit more, there is a bit more upside resistance there. And then ultimate high is set on December 6th at 350. So that's where Coinbase is trying to go. So I wouldn't chase it up here, but a very nice run if you caught that, anywhere from 250 up to 295 today. Qxo If you guys know this firm, this was up 12. Wait a second. Hold on. Did this get had to slip in here? QXO, is this the roofing, waterproofing, and building products in the United States? An $8 billion company, but the chart, I'm going to skip this one. This does not look reputable here. I'm going to ignore this. Let's go to the next one. And that is going to be Marvell Tech. They bid this up big time today. We, of course, all know this company. Marvell up a big 7% today. Let's take a look at the chart. It's still living under its 200-day moving average. This earnings report right here back in March 5th really was a sucker punch for the stock. Today, a nice rally. To me, this looks very heavy here, right around the $73 to $75 area. I would not chase this here. So not much bullish comments to say. I actually think this one's going to sell off to about $66 over the next 2 weeks. I don't like it. But that is specifically for Marvell. I wouldn't say that's emblematic of the entire semiconductor space. These were the big moves up today. Let's go to the losers. We said there were significant losers in the payment space, namely Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal. We'll take a look at Visa. This just immediately as I look at this, obviously it's financial. This looks at the EUFN chart. We had coming off of all-time highs just last week, and then it goes below the 50-day moving average with a sharp uprising 200-day moving average, and new breaks in RSI under 40 for the first time in 2 months. Typically for me, that is kind of a sign, more of a good sign to get into a leader here, a superstar. The problem with the Visa chart, I think in terms of duration, I think this may need a little bit more time. So this may need to correct in terms of duration, not in terms of price depreciation. So I see kind of a low here, right around 345. This was a little bit overdone today, the $17 sell-off. It could hang around here, in my opinion, sub 360 for the next week to week and a half. And then I think that would be your buy as next stop would be 380. I still think this one looks great for new all-time highs going into July. So let this one simmer for a little bit longer. And I think an entry under 360 is good. Call spreads jump out. Maybe potentially August. Look at the liquidity for that. Potentially like a 340, 370, but I have to see, and maybe you do 1x2s if you get more upside. So we'll have to see. But that looks like a potential nice play after an ugly sell-off today. Next, Zoetis. Zoetis got hit hard today, down 4%. That is a pretty significant move. Again, totally opposite looking chart. That's why we like doing the show. It brings different sectors, subsectors, and industries. This is Zoetis in the pharmaceutical for animals, $72 billion company here. This stock has looked like crap ever since December 16th, essentially when the Fed cut, a couple meetings ago. And this thing really went from 177 to 163 and really hasn't, look at this, tapped to the 200-day moving average or rising 200-day moving average. Wasn't enough. Sell it here. Look at that. Picture perfect tag on the wick on March 10th. It got to the penny of the 200-day moving average. Algo said no thank you, and it did it again twice this week. So now what do we say? I think this is a little bit slightly overdone here. I think this base is right around 157. I think it, I don't know about the word pops, but I do think this tries to restore itself to about 165 in the next 2 weeks, and that 200-day moving average will still prove far too heavy for it. And then next, I'm actually kind of surprised this made it to the multiple standard deviation mover. Perhaps it hasn't been doing a ton lately, but Dropbox down 2% is on the radar here for whatever reason. Dropbox, they are the $8 billion software company with a content collaboration platform. So these guys peaked here in January, early in the year at $33. Still above the 200-day moving average, though. This is pretty constructive. Ugly period from February to March 13th. Really ugly here. But it's held its own. A picture perfect tag of the 200-day moving average on the 13th on Friday, and a nice bounce up. I would give this a little bit of time. I wouldn't be shocked if this tries to move towards, maybe even try to scare some folks and go below the 200-day moving average. Wouldn't shock me. I'm not expecting it, but I'm not so sure how sturdy and how stable that 2790 hold is. I think it's going to possibly be tested over the next week, and I do think that'll be your opportunity to potentially buy. CRCL, yeah, a lot of people going crazy on Circle. I will look at that later. Obviously, it's a more of a recent issue, but yeah, a lot of people, again, in the payment space and everything else. We'll take a look at that. Thank you, Green Trading. All right, so these were the big movers lower on the day. Let's go to the big movers on the week. Again, we were talking about yesterday how this is a very commodity-centric market. MP, no one better than MP in the past week. Congratulations if you were in the stock. MP Materials. These guys are, whoops. I want to give you some stats and figures. Hold on. Oh, la-di-da. Uno momento, por favor. We're doing it live. Okay. If this doesn't work, I'll just have to go somewhere else. All right. MP, some stats here, of 45% in the past 5 days. They're in metals and mining. Okay, they're a $6 billion company. They do the rare earth metals in the Western Hemisphere, MP Materials. Absolutely amazing run. I mean, look at the chart. Had a couple of days beneath the 200-day moving average, a little bit of a test end of May here, and just an absolutely staggering move, absolutely staggering. A bunch of convergence of moving average back here at 25. This thing to me, fully valued, is $30, so I wouldn't chase it up here, but this is 52-week highs. Like I said, even with volatility expansion, I get you to like $32 on this. So I don't want to chase it here. I do think this comes back down to about, it makes total sense, to about $27, possibly even $25. But it's a good-looking chart, very strong. Again, this 27 here is just the 20-day moving average. So I at least kind of expect that. That's a $10 drop. I would be careful with this name. It's been the best performing stock in the entire market over the past 5 days, up an average of 9% a day today, almost doing half that, up 5%. Look at these candles, absolutely extraordinary. Still overbought. This could go higher. I'm seeing confirmation here with the high RSI on the 52-week high. So bullish confirmation. This could go a little bit higher, obviously like $40, but ultimately I do receive a pullback. This for me is a no touch. We can, buy straddles, but this is still a major mover. Next one, I like the stock a lot earlier in the year. Haven't looked at it much lately. Reddit up 23%. This has had a challenging time, I would say, ever since mid-March, and still kind of just trying to get this as of this week. I would say trying to erase this drawdown it's had. It's up 5% today. We all know Reddit. A big week. Up an average of almost 5% a day. That's what it did today. To me, full valuation on this, full target for the short term is right around 130 or 133. So I don't want to chase it. I think it's gone a little bit. It's surprising the strength off the 200 moving average after it's had such a hard time. I think this just seems likely to consolidate to about 120 over the next 2 weeks. So not my favorite either. So see a lot of give and take in some of these markets. And then the third best place to be in the market. I know a lot of folks are in this one. ASTS up 22%, up today 10% alone to new 52-week highs. Congratulations, ASTS holders. I'm looking at you, Riley, as well. There's many folks that are in this name. This had a challenging period of its own from March 31st to June 3rd, and now it's getting in line, baby, especially since June 6th when this thing was $30. This is all the way to 44 and new highs. We all know ASTS, flying taxis and whatnot. This is a momentum name as well. To me, full target is about $36, $37. I don't really want to chase this here. And this is, specifically these high momentum stocks, they can get back pretty quickly. So I see other tops around 39 going back to the August highs. That may be a reasonable spot. I personally, looking at bullish confirmation, this one's pretty decent. You're still having an 81 RSI. You would want to see it go above the prior high, which was 85. But you have a candle like this, a bullish engulfing that swallows up the previous day and even the day before. Stock looks good. I just personally wouldn't chase it above 37. I do think it consolidates to about, I think $33, to be honest, looks like a spot that it possibly gets in the next 2 weeks. Be careful with a name like this. Top 3 losers of the past 5 days. I see your suggestions, Gaston. We will take a look and circle at the end. I'm very close. Top 3 losers of the past 5 days. We've talked about solar with the loss of those tax credits yesterday. Enphase has been really the poster child of the sell-off in solar. This thing's been absolute garbage. Enphase Energy, now a $5 billion company. It used to be much bigger. This looks like a relative strength sell to me. I know it's already come down very hard, 20% in the past 5 days for an average of 4% a day. Today it was up 4%, slightly a dead cat bounce off the 52-week low yesterday. To me, I think this is what they want to sell this one to, at least, not at least, but this one looks like it's at the $35. This is, when you don't get nowhere near the 200-day moving average that has a slope like this, I'm not quick enough to say it's a turnaround story. Last time this thing was even in contention was before the election, end of September. I remember this was like a Kamala Harris trade. Her odds went up. You bought Enphase and you bought the Solars. But yeah, this looks ugly. And again, where's election day? Right around here. And again, lost. And you see what happens. The stock just on that day from the election dropped 17%, went from 77 to 71. So I know now I'm getting really stickler, but yeah, it was at 85. Yikes. And now new 52-week low, 36. Don't like it. It's ugly. All right, next. Don't get on me, roaring kitty. GameStop, the second worst place to be this week, 17%. We had that thing where they're going to issue stock, I believe, and start a Bitcoin inventory. Looks like investors did not love it so much. Stock looks, whoops, let me move that box. Here were earnings. The next day, stock dropped 5%. They actually peaked. The 52-week high was actually just after Memorial Day. These guys peaked May 28th at $36. A weird-looking chart. I mean, technically, the 200-day moving average is rising. Didn't have oversold behavior here. I think this actually it's been a bad place to be for the past week. Still some overflow of sell-off from those earnings. It does look like it's weakening, but not the worst chart in the world. This looks somewhat constructive. I think this actually does want to hurdle the 200-day moving average and get to 27. So for all you gorillas, Wall Street bets, whatever, I actually think there is a play here with GameStop. You got the earnings out of the way, yeah, from June 10th. Just be careful. I'm not sure if it absolutely rests, but this looks like it does want to head to 27. I think that was the low short term. I kind of like the support here at 21, and it just visited it. So I didn't get oversold. So lets me know there's somewhat of a line of buyers. Overbought behavior several times this year, notably in November through the November 27th. And we also saw it just now on the leading up to the 52-week high at the end of May. So there's worse spots that you can be. I think it'll try to catapult and get above the 200-day moving average. And I think maybe like a 23-27 call spread may possibly make sense. I'd have to look, or possibly selling the 22 puts if they pay. But GameStop, can't believe I'm saying it, but looks like there's some trades there to the upside. And then Applovin, the third worst place to be. Not a huge loss, but down 10% this week, down 4% today. So an average of 2% a day. Clear top here in the short term on June 5th at $429. And life comes at you fast. Now it's trading $344. A beautiful looking chart, though. Rising 200-day moving average. Ugly test beneath it with a SPY 52-week low. And a top back here February 13th at $525. See here. So these guys are, of course, in software-based platform for advertisers to enhance the marketing and monetization of their content. $120 billion company now off of $5 billion revenue. Pretty crazy. That's a 40 projected 1-year PE. That's absolutely wild. So bad financials, but great, obviously momentum. You look at this chart. Ugly place to be the past week, down 10%. I think this base is right around, honestly, I think an entry above 335 is great. I don't think you're going to get that much better than cheaper than that. 335, that is a price it's been above actually since May 12th. And I like this here. I think it's actually kind of basing in this large flag here and could potentially go higher. I think this will get to 375 in about 2 weeks. And ultimately, it's trying to get obviously towards this 430 level, and some volatility expansion ought to do it and get it within closer of those highs. But I do think this gets to 375 in the next 2 weeks. Applovin. So the top 3 trades of the past 5 days: long MP, that thing's an absolute beast. Long Reddit, long ASTS. If you're in those, you're absolutely crushing it. Green Trading said, let's take a look at Circle. This is Circle Internet Group. So these guys, I don't really talk about, like I said, new issues on the show. But Circle Internet Group was up 34% today. This is again, the stablecoin law or whatever passed today. And this is Circle operates as a platform, network, and market infrastructure for stablecoin. So they were right at the center of this. This is a $30 billion company now, of $500 million in revenue today. The news really helped them. These guys IPO'd, if you remember, just 2 weeks ago, and they IPO'd at $64. We're now looking at 203. So not much you could do with technicals on this. I mean, even 12. What is that? From the 5th, so 13 calendar days. So we have a handful of days here. Not really much you could construct on moving averages or anything like that, but extraordinary trading. The most I have here is a VWAP of the last couple of sessions, and that's at 186 and rising sharply. So congrats if you're a holder of here. It's good to see some animal spirits go towards the IPOs and such. Maybe when this has more history, into September, we'll be looking at it more with in a better context. But absolute ripper circle. Not much I can do here. As you can tell, no technicals registered, even on a 14-day. Obviously, RSI, you can't do that just yet. But congrats, screen trading, if you're in that. And then hi, Gaston says, can you see PG? Procter & Gamble, I remember you asked about this about a long time ago. Tell me where you are on this position, Gaston. If you're still on, I'll tell you what I'm saying here, unsolicited. Yeah, not a great looking chart. You're just a couple of dollars here off the 52-week low, literally $1 off the 52-week low. An arching 200-day moving average. Haven't really touched it more than 2 sessions straight since mid-April. Here's, I guess, the good news. I don't know what your time frame is, but I think this base is right around here, right around this 157 level. I know that's really not ballsy to say, as it's going to base around its 52-week low, but I do think it's going to try and find its way to about 163, 162 over the next 2 weeks. And that's as good as it gets. I don't really have anything more constructive to say about PG. So like I said, I think the low here holds about 157. It was flat today. And I do think this makes a move towards about 162, as I said, 162, that 163 level over the next 2 weeks. Short term, I want to enter. Long. Yeah, like I said, so I think you'll catch 4 points. I think you have 1 point of downside, 4 point of upside. Not bad. There's, I went through a bunch of names today that potentially have much more velocity and more momentum. But yeah, I think you get a slightly dead cat bounce here at 162 and then probably rolls over again. Just not the place to be in the household products game right here. All right. Tomorrow, the market is off for Juneteenth, so no trading. So it's not your screen broken. Nothing's happening. And then Friday, we will have end of week wrap up. Okay. Peace.